Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in if you're out there. Um, Today's episode of Mortgage Mayhem, the podcast. Man, it's been a long weekend, but of course, I'm so happy to be back. Yesterday, I wanted to jump on this mic so bad, but it was a holiday, a lot of stuff going on, so wasn't able to come back on the mic yesterday, but I'm here today. Got a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff going on. Are black workers really stuck at the bottom? McKinsey says yes, and the numbers don't lie. Salt-N-Pepa says push it to Universal Music Group in a fight for their masters. Diddy entire empire could go poof under this RICO charge. And get this, middle income buyers drive luxury spending, not billionaires. We remember Congressman Charlie Rangel. Take a hard look at Trump's attack on Harvard and spotlight Gen Z kids who skipped college and landed 70K jobs straight out of high school. Plus, why single women own millions more homes than men. And in our deep dive, we're going to talk about Coastal Capital Group. What's their edge in the mortgage space? Oh, and we got 4 new real estate hacks that could save you thousands. Let's get into the mayhem.
Welcome to the Mortgage Mayhem podcast, where the mortgage game meets real life, real talk, and a whole lot of chaos. We break down the deals, the drama, and the data behind the scenes of real estate finance, with a twist of street smarts, savvy, and a touch of madness. Before we dive in, here's the deal. The Mortgage Mayhem podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are not attorneys, CPAs, or licensed financial advisors, and nothing you hear on this show should be taken as legal, financial, or investment advice. Always consult a licensed professional before making financial decisions. Welcome to.
All right, we got that out the way. Always got to have that disclaimer at the top, just in case, folks. I've seen a lot of people, not a lot of people, but a couple people, we got a couple new subscribers, so we definitely want to say shout out to all new subscribers. We want more, so, bring it on, subscribers. And we had a lot of back and forth with some individuals that was in the chat. That was good. I was able to respond to some of their questions. So the thing's starting to grow slowly but surely, and I'm happy at the fact that we're just, taking our time, slow grinding this the way that we're supposed to, not expecting anything and just organically, getting this thing off the ground. So let's get this thing started. Like I said, I've been excited to be back on the mic. Excited to talk to you guys, bring you guys this good old news, getting back to doing these good deep dives on these companies, so you guys can have some additional information while you're out here in the marketplace. But let's go. Let's talk. According to the top consulting firm McKinsey, approximately 43% of Black workers make less than $30,000 a year. The McKinsey and what is it? McKinsey and Company? Yeah, McKinsey and Company. What are they up to? What are they talking about here, folks? But anyway, so today Black workers earn about 30% less than white workers, which amounts to $10,000 difference in annual income. This gap has major effects on things like financial stability, spending power, and the ability to build long-term wealth. Although Black workers represent 12.9% of the U.S. workforce, they receive just 9.6% of all wages earned. Almost half of all Black workers are employed in industries like healthcare, retail, and food service. However, most of them hold lower paying service jobs rather than high level positions like managers or professional. This job distribution plays a big role in the ongoing wage gap. While the median wage across all U.S. workers is about 42,000 a year, 43% of black workers make under 30,000 annually. Let's talk about it. Well, I mean, this is just one of those things. It's been, it took us a while to get here. Now that we're here, we're still, trying to shatter glass ceilings, unfortunately. I don't know what it is about, African Americans, blacks, whatever you want to call it. Um, why is it such a struggle for, corporate America to, see us for who we are, not judge us based off of pre-existing, thoughts. Judge us on what we bring to the table. What's our abilities? And once we get into these positions, 9 times out of 10, you will get an opportunity to actually find out our skill sets, find out, how good we are at these, positions, especially managing. We've been managing people all our lives, family members, you name it. I get it. You got to have the right skill set. But for us to be lacking approximately 43% of black workers making less than $30,000 a year, that's almost half of the black people. That's making under 30,000. We can't do better than that. We can't get these percentages up where, we're getting to the bag just like everybody else. 43% is a lot of people in the whole scheme of things, right? So I don't know what we're going to have to do to get, better at this. I don't know what we're going to have to do in order to allow people to understand our skill set and that we're, able to do these jobs just as good, if not better than anybody else. It's just one of those things that I don't understand. Like I said, I know it's not going to be equal. It's probably never going to be equal. Like I said, we're 400 years behind, and we're just in the process of doing a little bit of catching up. So I don't know if in my lifetime or I would see that it's an even playing field, but hopefully the next generation of of kids who's coming into the marketplace, the millenniums, that they'll kind of set this thing straight. I think we pushed the ball down. Our generation pushed the ball down the field a little bit to the point where we can even be having these kind of discussions. And we've done, quite well for ourselves compared to the last generation. But we got to do better, folks. This is ridiculous. 43% of all of, black workers are making less than $30,000. Almost half of all black workers are employed in industries like healthcare, retail, and food services. There's a lot of other industries out here that, we could be getting ourselves trained to be a part of. And it doesn't just have to be healthcare, which is very vital, very important. Retail, which is very vital, very important, and food services also. But I just think we could be doing better, right? There's all there's engineering, there's just a lot of different industries that we should be, trying to capitalize on. But this is just a reflection of what's going on out here in the workplace right now. And I just think we could do a lot better. All right, let's keep it moving. Salt-N-Pepa. Salt-N-Pepa. So Salt-N-Pepa sues UMG for rights to their master recordings, rep says. Suit is about the future of the artist's ownership. So hip hop icons Salt-N-Pepa are suing Universal Music Group for rights to their master recordings as well as punitive damages. The duo claimed that in retaliation to the lawsuit, UMG pulled their songs from streaming platforms. The Queen's natives are due to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame via the musical influence category later this year. This group's former DJ Spinderella is not part of the lawsuit, so I guess they still beefing. Once again, UMG is at the forefront of not doing right by their artists. And when the artist steps up and has a voice, what they do is they go and take what's the prized possession, the music, away from people. So I don't really understand like how these crooked record labels, why can't they just do business with these individual artists as partners? Why does everything have to be negatively done to the artists? Why do they have to punish them by taking the music away from their fans? Just so they can make a point. Because I'm assuming they think that is the old school way of doing things, where you could just take music from these individuals and individuals fold. But it's a new day and time. These individuals are not folding. They believe in their music, of course, and then they believe in being treated fairly. So for a major record label like UMG to be pulling this on one of our beloved hip hop acts, Salt-N-Pepa, is just insane. And Salt-N-Pepa has stayed the test of time. They've been here. They haven't gone anywhere. The old music, as soon as you hear it, you bop it. So that just lets you know how good the music was. It's timeless music. So for the record label to be treating a group like this, in a harmful way. I mean, these guys just got nominated to be into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a hip hop. So I just hope Salt-N-Pepa and all artists that's put it down, who's had a luxury career, who's done what they were supposed to do. These record labels, yeah. You don't think UMG didn't recoup whatever they needs to recoup from Salt-N-Pepa by now? Salt-N-Pepa's in everything. They're in commercials. I'm pretty sure that it's just like theme songs for women. Um, they've they've recouped. I'm pretty sure they've recouped. And now, after decades of someone else owning their music, now they're just saying, hey, can we own our music now? Can we get our master so we can, you know, leave our families with generational wealth from the music? So if something happens to them, they don't have to run behind UMG in order to get the monies that's deserving to the family, because you know Salt-N-Pepa did what they were supposed to do. So come on, UMG, damn, y'all just don't want anybody to win, but y'all, most labels are like this, which is insane that they've been able to get away with this for decades and decades. And can't anybody do anything about it because they're so powerful, because they done made so much money off of, dreams and, different artists, white, black, Hispanic, you name it. It ain't just, Salt-N-Pepa that's been, getting taken down through there and discriminated against and just, just pretty much taken this highway robbery, so to speak. So we're gonna keep an eye on this. We wish Salt-N-Pepa nothing but the best. They've been a great group. pioneers, legends. So Salt-N-Pepa, I know you don't know me, whatever, but when I saw this, I just thought we should bring it to light because, you guys are the pioneers. You're one of the first when it comes to ladies, in the industry. So for you guys to be going through this is just insane. All right, so let's keep it moving. All right, Diddy. Yeah, Diddy's going down through there, y'all. Diddy, I think his trial started back up today, but CNN reports Diddy's estimated 400 million fortune can be seized if convicted in the federal sex trafficking and RICO case. With the RICO, everything's in play. While citing Forbes, CNN reports that Diddy's estimated $400 million fortune is up for grabs by the government if he is convicted in his federal sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy RICO case. In 2022, Fortune reported his net worth was at $1 billion. However, at the end of 2024, his net worth plummeted to $400 million per CNN via Forbes. In a new broadcast report shared on Tuesday, CNN anchor and chief legal analyst Laura Coates talks about what might happen to Diddy's assets if he's found guilty in his federal trial. Coates reported, right now, Sean Diddy Combs is not only fighting for his freedom, but also his money. Even with all his legal troubles, Forbes estimated his net worth is still around $400 million. But if he were to be convicted, all that can be in jeopardy. Why? Because the government could actually seize his assets. In her broadcast, Coates is joined by Jim Trusty. He is a former chief of the Department of Justice Organized Crime and Gang Section. Coates poses a question to Trusty, asking people might hear that and think, wait, does that really mean that all his businesses, all the money he has, could conceivably be used to finance this? Therefore, it's all fair game. Trustee confirmed, yeah, it pretty much is. The RICO is essentially anything he touched in his business world, whether it's record labels, liquor labels, planes, trains, and automobiles. Basically, everything is in play. So, wow, Diddy. Man, it's just a sad case all around. I've been following the case, of course, probably like most people. Just hearing some of the things that has transpired, because of power and privilege, Diddy just was out here, running, just running a medley of corruption and abuse, freakiness, you name it. He was a part of it, unfortunately, just based off of what we're hearing so far. We kind of knew Diddy was off the chain from back in the day, but we just chalked it up as he's another superstar. And it ain't just Diddy that's around here acting a fool. Trust you me, he just happens to be the one that has been exposed, and now he's on trial for his life. But during his time, Diddy was around here doing some things he wasn't supposed to be doing. We've seen some of it from the Cassies. Then we just seen Kid Cudi on the stands on Thursday, saying that he blew up his car, ramshacked his house for the most part. He had gifts there, and they went through his gifts. And Diddy finally met with Kid Cudi, and it was just a mess. It was almost like Diddy didn't want Cassidy, but he didn't want nobody else to have her. And Kid Cudi had snuck up, in the back door and had, Cassie, under his reign, so to speak. And Diddy did not like that and just started to act a complete fool, behind it. So Kid Cudi, testified. I know I heard today they're trying to get the testimony kicked out. His former assistant Capricorn is on the stand right now as we speak. And she's already saying Diddy didn't kidnap her, threatened to kill her, all kind of craziness. So, Diddy, the more and more everybody thought it was just going to be Cassidy as the blockbuster, defendant or not defendant, but the person who testimony was going to rock him, but it seems like it's just about everybody else as well. So Diddy, man, bro, we, like I said, once upon a time you was that guy, but once we got a peek into your world, man, it's not looking good, bro. So we'll keep our eyes on that. We'll keep reporting. Like I said, I have a couple friends of mine who exclusively reports on it. The Flow Show No Filter. If you guys just so happen to be looking for, a deep dive into Diddy, he would be that guy. He's on all social media platforms. So if you guys want to reach out and, pay him some love, show him some love, but more so than anything, if you want the inside scoop on everything Diddy, he would be a good source for you. So, all right, so let's keep it moving. Diddy. Mohawk Diddy, so to speak. All right. All right. Da-da-da-da-da-da. What we got here? All right. So, according to reports, 70 to 75% of luxury spending globally comes from middle income households. According to Bain & Company, 70 to 75% of global luxury spending comes from middle income households earning roughly 40 to 150,000 a year, depending on the region. In the US, that typically means professional, dual income families or individuals who sometimes prioritize investment pieces as at the expense of other spending. Only a small slice of total sales is accounted for by high net worth individuals who can buy luxury goods endlessly without a second thought. Luxury brands embrace this dynamic. Why? Because middle class buyers are loyal. They save up, track new drops, join wait lists, and often treat purchases as personal milestones. Their connections to the brand is emotional and aspirational, something money alone can't replicate. Billionaires don't expire. They already have access. But for everyone else, luxury is a reward, a symbol of taste, effort, and arrival. So, I mean, that's true. I see that, just by people that I know. It's just that, I guess it's that mentality of, you just, you'll just do anything to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, right? You'll go in debt to keep up with the Joneses. And this has kind of started happening within the past couple of years because I just remember back in the day, you might have had some luxury brands that people, they wasn't so luxury, they wasn't so expensive. And compared to what you got now, your Gucci's, your Louis, your Rolexes, your APs, you name it, the things that the elite floss that make regular folks want to have. It's just a thing now. Even down to the kids. The kids are, brand conscious. They always are looking, for different things. So it's always something that's actually going on, folks, when it comes to, you know, and it ain't just us. It's pretty much everybody. Everybody wants to seem like they have more than they have. Once again, everybody wants to pretend like they, are a part of, the upper 1% when that's just not the case. But if you walk around and you have on designer this or designer that, people tend to think that you're somebody. But when you take a deep dive into who they really are, you'll find that it's a world of debt. It's a world of chaos. It's a world of the things that you need, you don't have because you're too busy, trying to keep up with the Jones and being in different designer this or designer that. Not to say anything is wrong with having designer, because some of it is nice, right? But a lot of it, you look at it, you be like, man, what the stop it, But that's just one of those things that a lot of us are going in debt for. You go into people's closets and you will find all this and all that, but they don't own a home, they don't own a car, they don't own this, So like they say, the billionaires and multi-millionaires, they already have access to this stuff. So they not tripping. They'll rather have no jewelry on, and have millions in the bank compared to the other half where, you'll have on couple $1,000 worth of, gear, and your bank account is looking pretty minute. So this is just a trend that I don't think is going to go away. It seems like it's just getting more rampant because now we're finding out that some of these high ticket items that people are, going into debt over, you can pretty much get it for a little or nothing if you know the right people across those seas. That was intriguing and noteworthy to understand that you don't have to pay top dollar for these designer items if you know the right people in these places that these items are actually put together. You know they're not charging you crazy amounts if you know the right people in order to reach out and get these designer pieces that everybody love to have in their closet. It's easier to get now. You can continue to be crazy and pay top dollar for these items when now you can just get into WhatsApp and find you a connect overseas, and you can have just the same things that everybody else have for a fraction of the price. So that's what I would say. Find you a connect if you really want to, be designer Jones. Find a connect overseas and allow them, to put you on to the right pricing for these items. All right, let's keep it moving. This was my guy back in the day. So Charlie Rangel, a former congressman from Harlem, elected in 1971 and served for 46 years, who was a founding member of the Congressional Black Caucus, has passed away at 94. Oh man, Charlie Rangel, the longtime Harlem congressman and founding member of the Congressional Black Caucus, has passed away at 94. A Korean War veteran and decorated war hero, Rangel began his political journey by unseating Adam Clayton Powell Jr. in 1971. He went on to serve 23 terms in the House of Representatives, where he was known as one of the most effective lawmakers in Congress. He chaired the powerful House Ways and Means Committee and played a key role in passing major legislation like the Affordable Care Act, the Earned Income Tax Credit expansion, and the Empowerment Zone program. Rangel was instrumental in U.S. policy impacting Africa and the Caribbean, and his namesake amendment helped dismantle apartheid in South America. Even after retiring in 2017, he remained active in politics and community development, launching the Charles B. Rangel Infrastructure Workforce Initiative at City College. He met his wife Alma in the 1950s at Harlem's iconic Savoy Ballroom. She passed away last year. The couple leaves behind children and grandchildren. Tribute has poured in from political leaders, including Mayor Eric Adams, Senator Chuck Schumer, Representative Hakeem Jeffries, Governor Hochul, and Reverend Al Sharpton, all remembering Rangel as a fearless leader, Harlem icon, and champion of justice. Yeah, Charlie Rangel was that guy. I just remember when, he always had Obama back, especially during that whole Affordable Care Act drama when Obama was trying to get it passed. He was just one of those pioneers. He was so smooth. He reminded me like he was almost Snoopy. I know he wasn't, but, he had that butter love. He was no nonsense. He always did it with a smile on his face. And he was a part of, the group that got things done. That was the one thing that I liked about him. He put his money where his mouth was. He didn't take no junk from the Republicans. He stood up. I think he got in a little trouble at the end, but I just think that was some haterade for the most part, and that pretty much put him into retirement. But he did so much work, as you can tell. Infrastructure, Affordable Care Act, Earned Income Tax Credit expansions, empowerment zone programs. So a lot of the things that a lot of people are, fortunate enough to have to make their lives better, he was a part of it. He had that Harlem swag too. But when he opened his mouth, you knew that he was about his business. So RIP to Charlie Rangel and his family. We just wish, the family the best. But trust you me, Charlie Rangel is a legend, a political legend. So big ups to Charlie Rangel. He was just, like I said, he was just that guy, man. I loved him. Although he was a light-skinned brother, when I did get into politics a little bit, he was still a black face to us. So we were able to look at him and be proud that he was, walking the walk, talking the talk, walking the walk. You know what I'm saying? So big up to Charlie Rangel. Like I said, nothing but the best wishes for his family. Charlie Rangel, my guy. Rest in peace, man. All right. Oh my God. Mr. Trump. So President Trump new tax bill will make it harder to get on food stamps. An attempt to save $3 billion while passing most costs on to the states. So I just don't, this is not to say that, I'm all for food stamps and all that, but people need it. The people that need it should have it. Cutting $3 billion, cutting it to the point where they're saving $3 billion. So the House bill targets food stamps with stricter rules in a narrowing 215 to 214 vote. The U.S. House passed a Republican-led bill proposing major changes to federal programming, including the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, i.e. SNAP. The bill aims to save $300 billion by tightening SNAP's eligibility rules and shifting more costs to states. Critics warn the changes could harm the over 42 million Americans who rely on food stamps, especially low-income families and children. Transferring financial responsibility to states could create uneven access to food assistance across the country. Democrats and two Republicans opposed the bill, calling it a tax break for the wealthy at the expense of vital social programs. The bill now heads to the Senate, where it faces further scrutiny. So, I, when it comes to this, man, like I said, if you're cheating, you're taking away from the ones who actually deserve it. You know, and unfortunately, we are a kind country. We help our less fortunate, but we don't want people to be stealing from the system. So if that's happening and we got to tighten things up so that doesn't happen, then I'm all for it, because when you do that, it just allows the folks who really need it to get it, right? But if you're just out here, taking, food stamps, you got a job, you got money, and you still, in the system playing these kind of games, then I think they should tighten up the requirement, the eligibility requirements, because these programs are meant for people who need the program, not people who's skirting the system or, to me, it's really like hustling backwards for real. Like, why would you be doing this when you know it's worthy people who needs this assistance? But here you are, stepping in and doing things that are illegal. And it's just a shame, to be honest with you. If you're not qualified for these services, then go handle your business. Stop taking away from the ones that these services were initially provided for. They wasn't provided for folks who skirting the system. They were provided for families who have kids, who are on lower income scale, to be able to to put food on the table for their families. So for the government to step in to provide those type of services, and then you decide that you want to one up the government, then yeah, tighten up the eligibility. That way people who deserve it can have it, and those who once upon a time that was taking advantage of the system, go and get your ass as some form of income, job. You know, it's a lot of different ways you can get income nowadays. It doesn't have to be a job. We'll talk about that a little. I mean, it doesn't just have to be, just your typical, college degree job. There's a lot of different ways that you can, get out the system, get some proper training, and then be able to, provide for your family efficiently. That's what I think. So if they're tightening up to give billions or millions to the rich, then that's one thing. I definitely am a no go for that. But if they're tightening up to make sure that the ones who deserve it should have it, then I'm definitely for that, for sure. All right, let's keep it moving. This is exactly what I was talking about right here. So, high school student graduating with $70,000 job offers after learning trades while in school and skipping college. So, while school, in a recent Good Morning American segment, ABC News spotlighted a powerful shift in how young people are approaching their futures. Instead of pursuing traditional four-year college degrees, many high school students are choosing trade schools and finding immediate success, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. The story follows students and recent graduates who are entering high demand fields like welding, HVAC repair, and electrical work. These careers often require just a few months to 2 years of training and come with starting salaries as high as $70,000, all without the burden of student debt. One of the key takeaways from the piece is the increasing appeal of hands on careers that offer both job security and entrepreneurial opportunities. Experts in this segment highlights how industries are actively recruiting skilled tradespeople amid a national labor shortage, especially in infrastructure and construction. Additionally, the segment notes how trade jobs are being rebranded as smart, modern, and financial sound career options. With rising college costs and uncertainty around AI replacing white collar roles, vocational training is becoming an attractive and strategic choice for many Gen Z students. As the stigma surrounding blue collar work fades, trade schools are stepping into the spotlight as legitimate, respective, respected alternatives to higher education and redefining what success looks like for the next generation. So, I mean, that's so important. I mean, I just remember being in high school and they had, um, you know, a whole section in the school. They called it workshop where people were learning trades. But I come from a General Motors, city. So, most people didn't have to take those wood shop classes because jobs, plant jobs were plentiful. And that was the trade. That was, plumbers and electricians. Those things were there, but you could go to GM and make 70,000 easily as a line worker. So a lot of the trades were kind of ignored. But now I've been seeing an uptick on them. And it just makes sense because there's so many people who own plumbing companies, own electrical companies, painting companies, you name it, that's out here doing well for themselves, putting the food on the table for the family in a big way. So, you don't have to be ashamed. It was almost like you was ashamed to be a plumber. Now, plumbers making six figures. What do you got to be ashamed about now? Electricians making six figures. What do you got to be ashamed about now? So I just think the whole thing about, getting into a trade is it's not slept on anymore. People are literally getting involved in getting a trade under their belt. And they're right. You don't have to have college debt anymore. It's not something that you have to be, you know it's not something that you have to be. You don't have to have a college degree to make it in the world anymore. It's pretty much what they're trying to tell you. And with AI coming in, a lot of these white collar, jobs that people have been fighting or going to college to get are going to be a thing of the past anyway. So, if you out there and college is not for you, don't be scared to step up and speak that truth, because there's tons of other alternatives out there, for you now. And as you can see, you can get in 2 years or less, and then you walking into 70, 75,000, which used to be the thing for kids coming out of college. And the typical kid coming out of college wasn't making those 70, 75,000. If they were lucky. Typically, you were looking at maybe 30, 35, 40, maybe 50. So I would say if you're looking for a new way of making money and providing for your family, the trade, avenue is the way to go. Don't be ashamed, that you're looking to become a plumber, electrician, or mechanic, whatever the case may be, because nowadays they paying like how they, like how they've always been paying, but everybody just wanted to go to college. Everybody just wanted to, seem like they're educated in the whole 9 yards. That was kind of the ploy. But, education without pay, you know, does that make a lot of good sense? A lot of times you're forced to go to college because that just seemed like the thing to do. Trades wasn't something that people were speaking highly of. A lot of times people look down on you. I know when I was coming up, college was the thing. If you was saying, "Hey man, I ain't going to college. I'm gonna stay here and become a plumber," people look down on you. So for them to highlight that as a thing to do, is very important. So if you're out there, there's alternatives for you. Take advantage of it. All right, let's keep it moving. Oh, this is so crazy. So former members of the Divine Nine Black fraternities and sororities are now hosting a conference on their reasoning for denouncing their letters, calling it Get Out Now. So this conference is going to be August 15th to 16th. As you can see here, this is the conference. Tia Rockwell, I don't know who she is. To me, this is just, I don't really get it, to be honest with you. I'm like, why you got to denounce it? Just go about your business and not be a part of it anymore. Why do you got to put so much light on something that's so positive for so many people, including myself? So when I seen this, or when I first started hearing the whole denouncing thing, I was just like, who does that? Why would you, the organization that helped you, I'm sure, when you was on the college campus, the organization who helps the community in massive ways. When you talk about 9 different fraternities that started back when we didn't even have a right to be on college campuses, on white college campuses. And these guys and gals, probably risked their lives at the time to, put forth these organizations. I'm a part of Kappa Alpha Psi, so I know, 1911. I mean, just imagine 1911, what the landscape was. And for these brothers, these 10 brothers, to, put it on the line and create an organization to the point where in 2025 it's still going strong. And you got these people talking about denouncing man, if you don't take your ASS somewhere and sit down, what do you mean denouncing the letters? Go about your business. Nobody is forcing you to be a part of the organization. If there's some things that happened to you that you didn't agree with, then, you knew what you was getting yourself into before you got yourself into it. And if you didn't, you should have known. You should have did your due diligence. And, for you to just run around now talking about denouncing some letters, to me, you need your face slapped, and these folks that's doing a whole bit about it, having a whole conference about it, don't nobody care about you denouncing these great letters that we were fortunate and blessed enough to put on our chests. We don't care. Denounce. You shouldn't be a part of it. We don't want you to be a part of it if you don't want to be a part of it. But going about it this way, to me, is punk. It doesn't look good. Like I say, these organizations started in the early 1900s to get us away from discrimination, to help us as Black folk to come together and create brotherhoods and sisterhoods. And this is the things that these founders who created these organizations, just for that's what they get. Man, this is insane to me. So we're going to keep our eye on it. I don't want to get on the soapbox, too big of a soapbox about it, because I just, it irks me that you have some individuals that's out here, trying to put smut on these organizations that have done so much for so many people, so many communities, and you couldn't ride with that. You got to denounce it because of what? I don't even know. Like, what, somebody rubbed you the wrong way at a meeting or something, or, you know, I just don't get it. Of course, nothing's going to be perfect. Of course. So, organizations, no matter what kind of organizations, there's going to be some rotten apples within the organization. But the organizations overall are some of the best organizations to ever be created. So if you want to denounce your ASS own somewhere down the road, because these organizations aren't going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. So, for you to be doing whatever it is that you're doing, this whole little group of folks right here, I don't even know who she is. I don't know who he is, who she is, who he is, who she is. I'm assuming they're the denouncers in chief. Shame on you. Shame on you. All right. I'm going to keep my eye on that one for sure. So, but let's keep it moving. All right. This was interesting. Single women own 2.7 million more homes in America than single men, study shows. Women are leading in U.S. home ownership. Single women in the U.S. now own about 2.72 million more homes than their male counterparts. According to Lending Tree, they outpace single men in home ownership across 47 out of 50 states. Pew Research highlights that women now hold 52% of the 5.2 million homes owned by unmarried individuals. And in 22 metro areas, women under 30 are even earning more than men. This rise in ownership is also driven by census findings, which show many women are primary caregivers or single parent factors that often push them to secure stable housing and build long-term wealth. Although women typically pay 2% more when buying a home and earn 2% less when selling, their consistent demand for smaller, practical living spaces is influencing home builders. As a result, 2025 is seeing a shift towards more compact, family-focused homes just in time for the active spring and summer housing seasons. Bro, what are we doing out here in these streets, man? So the ladies are out here buying houses at a rampant pace. Is what we doing? We just renting, or we just shagging up? What are we doing? Why 2.72 million more homes? How many more homes that is compared to what men are out here doing? I just gotta, you know, let me just get the women. Let me give them what they deserve. Where? Come on. Yeah. I mean, they deserve a round of applause because they out here handling their business. You cannot own a home if you ain't handling your business. So, bro, we got some catching up to do. A lot of catching up to do. And I deal with a lot of men who buy homes, a lot of investors who buy homes. But now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, it's just as many females, if not more, that's even in the investment space. And they're starting to wrap their minds and arms around the fact that they can, buy properties and, flip them. They can build cribs from the ground up. They can buy properties and hold it in their portfolios. So they're getting hip to that game as well. And the one thing about women, once they understand what the game is, they play it at a high clip. But 2.7 million, that's a lot of houses, in the scheme of things. So what can you say about that? But congrats, and man, we gotta do better. I get it. Well, no, I don't get it. I don't understand it, to be honest with you. Like, what are we doing? We need to have a powwow with our ladies and find out why they are out here out clipping us when it comes to, picking up these properties all over the country. 47 out of 50 states, they just cleaning our clock. And you would think most men would be buying houses, for the family, for the woman, or at least, buying houses together. But these are single women. You know what I'm saying? 47 out of the 50 states, the women are cleaning men clock, and we be having the audacity to be running around treating women like ish. This is a prime example of who really has the power. I don't know, why women even put up with, half the stuff they put up with when they know, that they're pretty much out here being the breadwinners all across the board, including real estate from this report right here. So I don't know, man. I think we got to do a better job in creating our generational wealth. That's just it. Men were always at the forefront, for decades now, but slowly but surely, the more access that women, have had, or have received over the past couple, maybe decades, they put their best foot forward while we're just slipping and slipping. I don't know what we're doing, if we're going to jail, I don't know what's going on. We're dying, we're going to jail. I don't know what the case is, but I know one thing: we need to huddle up with these single women, number one, and try to not have them be single anymore. But if you're going to do that, you still got to be bringing something to the table. And you can't be acting a fool, because if they're already doing this, just imagine if you're smart and you come across a young lady who's single and doing her 1-2, and you can, link up and y'all got some synergy, then, you guys can run off into the sun and build all kind of generational wealth for you and her and the family. So single men, you got women out here that's when you look at their equity and what they do just regularly, they got the bag, man. You get with, and I don't know too many men I don't know any men, actually, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe a couple that's out here doing a big one without a woman by their side. I don't know it. I mean, if you got some examples, then please come to the floor and issue them. But no, you gotta get with these young ladies, and you gotta, come to the table and be real with yours, and then you guys can build and ride off into the sun. That's just my opinion. All right, let's keep it moving. Good job, ladies. Good job. I like it a lot. All right. All right. So the state of Missouri is one step away from eliminating the capital gains tax from selling stocks and crypto. The new law is waiting on the governor's signature. So Missouri is set to eliminate capital gains tax under House Bill 594. Missouri is on track to become the first U.S. state to eliminate capital gains tax under House Bill 594, which recently passed its final vote in the state legislation. The bill now awaits the signature of Governor Mike Kehoe If signed into law, the measure would allow a 100% state income tax deduction on all capital gains, including those from digital assets such as Bitcoin and XRP. Supporters argue the bill would make Missouri more competitive and attractive to investors and entrepreneurs seeking a more favorable tax climate. Critics, however, caution that the policy could reduce state revenue and disproportionately benefit wealthy individuals. Still, the legislation marks a bold step as states grapple with the evolving landscape of digital finance and economic growth strategies. Governor Kehoe's decision would determine whether Missouri leads the way in tax reform focused on digital and traditional investment assets alike. All right, so Missouri getting ahead of the game. The show me state. So they're creating an environment for investors and entrepreneurs. I mean, that's just bottom line. No capital gains tax. This is going to be major, and I'm telling you, a lot of Republican states are going to follow suit. Sometimes as Democrats, we got to get in the game of finance. It seems like because I'm independent, but just Democrats alone seems like they're more on the social fabric of America when they should be, a little bit of both. They should, of course, care for those who need help from the government, but you gotta be progressive, in a way as well. You gotta present things to the ones who want to be wealthy. You gotta give them some meat on the bone. You can't just be, I want food stamps for everybody. You gotta be like, look, I also want small businesses to be great. I also want entrepreneurs to have the tools that they need to be great. And I think that's what the issue is with the Democratic Party. They don't cater to people who want to be wealthy. They don't, and it's such a thing. It's not just everybody, wants to be regular. People want to be a wealth. People want, the the American dream. They don't just want to go to work, pay taxes, and do it all over again each and every day. That's not what we want. We want, to build real estate portfolios. We want to be able to give our kids and family members wealth after, we leave the earth. These are things that people in the Democratic Party also want, but we never really get a chance to get it because all we're getting, pushed down our throat is the social safety nets. We got to just get out the Democratic. You see how the Republicans is. They don't do enough of the social, but they do like what entrepreneurs and people in business, they do the things that those individuals like to see and hear, and a lot of times those are the individuals that are, making, the decisions for everyone. You know what I'm saying? So I just think this is a great move because capital gains, it's a thing. It's a big thing, So and now with all the financial digital tools that's coming on board. Speaking of that, next Tuesday, I'm going to be doing an interview. I'm just waiting on confirmation right now, where we're going to get into a lot of the crypto stuff, and just can't wait for that interview. But anyway, it's the thing of the future, especially with AI and crypto and digital currency. You'll mess around and you'll be left behind if you're not, up on this stuff because it's coming. It's not going anywhere. You got an administration that's doing everything in their power to kind of be the forefront of the whole new digital revolution that's right in our face, that we'll look up and people have become multi millionaires because they see it coming, they understand it, they're doing the things that need to be done. And a lot of us are not. So we'll keep an eye on Missouri, the show me state, and see, exactly what that's about. And I'm telling you, if that goes off like how it is looking like it's going to go off, other cities are going to follow suit. All right, so let's keep it moving. All right. Da, 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 da. What is... All right, so Chicago Mayor Brandon Jones has been investigated by Trump's DOJ Office of Civil Rights for remarks boasting about the hiring of Black people in his administration. How does that sound? That's crazy. Chicago Mayor Brandon Jones is under investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Civil Rights after comments he made at a church service highlighting the racial makeup of his staff. He had emphasized that key roles in his administration, like budget director and chief operation officer, are held by Black professionals, defending the move by stating that hiring Black people helps ensure representation and fairness for all. The investigation, led by Assistant Attorney General Hermit Dillon, a Trump appointee, is looking into whether Johnson's hiring practice violates Title 9 of the Civil Rights Act by favoring race. The DOJ hasn't reached any conclusion yet, but has asked the mayor's office to cooperate. Mayor Johnson teams maintain that this administration reflects Chicago's diversity and values, while criticizing the federal government's stance. The probe is seen as part of a broader push by the Trump's administration to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts at all levels, which includes cutting off DEI initiative and reopening politically charged investigations. Currently, about 34.3% of Johnson's staff's identify as Black and 30.5% as white. Johnson has publicly defended his administration diversity as essential to democracy and equity, which, while his critics view the DOJ's actions as politically motivated. So, I mean, just think about this. So, if you're the White House, right, and the majority of everybody you hire, instead of being 30.5 to 34.3, when you have an administration that your employees are probably more like 80-20 or maybe even higher, white to Black, what does that account for? What do you call that? Is that white privilege? What is that called? Because you, as the mayor of a city, you choose who you want to hire. You hire people based off of their experience, based off of their merit, based off their recommendations. And then you look at the White House. I don't know. I'm still waiting to see a Black person. That's a part of the inner workings of the administration. I haven't seen one. So I don't get it. Like, on the other side, you can have the majority of the workforce as being Caucasian, and nobody has anything to say about that. But as soon as the scales tip a little bit, then it's chaos, it's DEI, it's this, it's that. Once again, even playing field, buddy. Even playing field. And this here just, it reeks racism to me, because we all, and it also reeks you playing in our face, because we all see that these departments, these government agencies are predominantly Caucasian. I mean, predominantly. Like I said, I've yet to see a black person in the administration. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's a couple, maybe. I'm not even sure about that. But what I do know is that, as soon as anybody else tries to not even follow the same play, because here you got 30.5% black, 34.3% white. So it's an even playing field. And I promise you, I know they're getting stuff done. I know, the ideas that's at the table are plentiful, because it's a even playing field. It's a even playing field compared to the others who are putting forth these cases and things of that nature, where it's not a even playing field. It is a predominantly, Caucasian playing field, while, the other races are pretty much on the outside looking in. So to me, this is crazy. I hope that the mayor is thinking like how I'm thinking, and that could be a part of their comeback. Like, well, what are you guys over there doing then? Why aren't you? So you mean to tell me no African American, Asian, Hispanic folks are qualified to be in these positions? Is this all for Caucasians? Stop. And then if a brother or sister decide to hire somebody that looks like them, it's an issue. Although they can do the job, although they have the qualifications, although they have the references, although they have the educational background, but because of their skin color, they can't be in these positions. But that you hold, but when somebody of their same skin color hires them, you're gonna put a whole DOJ investigation on them. Man, this is some of the craziest stuff. I'm gonna be honest with you. I went to private schools all my life, and I didn't even feel any kind of discrimination growing up. And it just seems like within the past couple years, I don't know what it is, but I've seen it. Like, I feel it, I see it, and I don't really understand why. Because we've come so long, we've come such a long way, and we were on the preface of just being able to have a society that everybody's thriving, everybody's doing well. If you deserve to be doing well, and it just seems like we can pull back to the BS, and I don't like it at all. I don't think it's fair, and I just don't like people playing in my face like how it seems like it's happening. And it's like, we're gonna play in your face, and there ain't nothing you're gonna be able to do about it. We're in control. We're gonna shut you down. We're gonna, put you back. You were catching up. Now we're gonna not even the playing field. We're gonna like make you, get back to the end of the line, and that's just crazy. We've come a long way. We got some of the greatest minds in the world. We're well educated, the whole 9 yards. You can't just play us like that anymore. You probably could have did that, a couple of decades ago, but it's too many educated individuals. We're a part of. We've gotten the American dream just like the next person. So you can't really just do that to us like that anymore. But you're gonna try. I get it. But you're gonna try, and we're gonna fight it every step of the way. So just be prepared. All right, let's keep it moving. That just kind of pissed me off when I see stuff like that. But I won't just keep going on about it. But let's talk about this. Black family who was lowballed over the 250 by over 254,000 by appraiser reaches a $75,000 settlement. So a Bay Area appraiser has been ordered to pay $75,000 to Ron and Dominique Curtis, a East Bay couple featured in the ABC 7 News documentary Our America, Lowball. As part of the settlement, the appraiser must also pay $15,000 to the California Civil Rights Department and watch the documentary. The settlement also involved an appraisal management company, AMC, and a lender. Through the specific amounts and conditions for those parties have not been disclosed. But the AMC and the lender deny any wrongdoing. However, the lender has agreed to uphold its existing procedures for handling complaints of appraisal bias and will continue offering second appraisals in cases where discrimination is suspended. This is, this is how it should be. And this is what's going to make that change. If you start getting, popped in the face with these lawsuits because you not doing your job properly, then maybe that's what it's going to take. Because it's been happening for a minute, right? And I get it, the AMCs, because how the process works. A client comes to me, we do an application, we figure out, okay, yes, we can move forward with the loan, blah, blah, blah. They sign off on the term sheet. Then we order the appraisals through an AMC. AMC is kind of like the gatekeeper. After 2008, all the shenanigans and craziness that happened back then, they thought the best way to kind of curtail some of that is to bring in a third party, company like an AMC to manage the whole appraisal process. Now they're not, they could have appraisers within the company, but what they do is they farm it out, to the different appraisals in these different cities. Whoever comes back with the best quote, blah, 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 is typically the appraisal company that gets the appraisal. So they go out, they do their job. And the lender, like myself, we have no control over any of this. We're fighting for the client. I can't tell you. And then like us, we do have an actual appraisal, process. If the appraisal comes in less than what we think it should, then the AMCs that we deal with has a process that will allow you, to go up against these appraisal companies in order to get them to, give you the correct value. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you have to order a second appraisal, which is, in this case, a good thing because now you have an appraisal company. Say if an appraiser go out there and they come back with the same value, then you kind of be like, okay, then that appraisal must be in that ballpark, so to speak, and you can live with it. But like in this case, appraisal comes back and the value is 254,000 more than what the last appraisal gave you, then it's some shenanigans in the game and you gotta act because once again, this is your asset. This is what you will potentially give to your kids. So you want the value to be the true value. That's it. Once again, nobody's asking anybody for any favors. We just want people to do what they're supposed to do and be honest about it. That's it. Nobody's like back in the day when appraisal companies was running amok, lenders were involved in, the shenanigans, but that has been pretty much wiped out, cleaned up, to the point now where they couldn't just maintain doing business the right way. You got some bad apples at these companies who say, you know what, I'm going to discriminate against black folk, which is crazy to me. We got just as much buying power or more buying power than anybody. So why would you be trying to discriminate against us? Especially when it comes to the real estate. It's because ultimately they don't want us to have generational wealth. Generational wealth is a term that's just within the past, maybe, I don't know, 5, 10 years, has been a term that black folk even knew about. Nobody even knew about no generational wealth. It was, of course, it's a thing, but we didn't know about it. So as most things, we get things late. And once we figure it out, we go hard in the paint until we can, be a part of whatever it is that we were locked out of and now we have access to. And now we got access to wealth and they're like, real estate, nah, we've been in control of that as well. You're not about to come in this space and, build something for you and your family. We're not going to do that. So what we're going to do is undervalue what you worked hard to get the value on. And it ain't going to be anything you're going to be able to do about that. Just take it. No, nobody's taking that anymore. We're not doing it. We're just not doing it. We're coming to the table. We're going to get what's ours. And if we got to take you to court, we got to sue you to do that. That's what's going to happen. We got lawyers too. We got money to pay for lawyers. Lawyers see green. They're getting to the truth. If you can pay them, they're going to get to the truth. And in this case, they got to the truth. And now this particular appraisal company has to come up with whatever the dollar amounts they got to come up with. And now they got a black eye on. I don't even know who the appraisal company is. I'm not going to even try to figure that out. I'm just telling you, this is going on. So when you're out there, it ain't just, I'm going to be honest with you. It is a black thing, but white people fall into it as well. Because at the end of the day, if they don't know who you are, they can discriminate against their own as well, is what I'm saying. But the majority of this is happening to us, to our people, because for whatever reason, they feel like we shouldn't have what they have, which is crazy to me. Real estate is, it's international. It's going to always be here. We've always dibbled and dabbled in it. Just within the past couple of decades, we got really aggressive and we were able to, buy millions and millions of dollars worth of real estate and, pass that on, build huge portfolios that in retirement could take care of us. Those were the secrets that they decided not to tell us up front. We had to figure it out through trial and error. And now we're here. So they know that we're here now, and they said, you know what? Get to the back of the bus. We're going to undervalue. We're not just going to undervalue you. We're going to undervalue your assets as well. The same assets that everybody has access to. And when you do have access to it and you're not a person of color, then you just get all the bells and whistles. You get the highest values. Which is insane. Because really, when you do that, you're really hurting the communities. When you undervalue the real estate in these communities, you're hurting the communities. You are hurting the individual, but when you do that, you're hurting the entire community. If you didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's to me, I'm happy that the folks were able to, pull that off. That's just a good lesson for future appraisers. Hopefully that goes out into the world of finance, especially private money financing. I know I'm going to be talking about it to my appraisers. The couple in Oakland sued an appraisal company because I'm going to be having those subliminal conversations with my AMCs and my appraisers going forward because it's just not fair. Treat everybody fair. We're about fair. We're not about handouts. We're about fair. That's it. If you let the playing field be even and fair, we're gonna rise to the top every time. We do it in everything that that's been put in front of us, from slavery all the way up to being a person of color that's in the marketplace, building generational wealth, right? All right. So that's that for our hot topics. We got a couple mortgage hacks that I want to get to real quick, and then we're going to get into our deep dive. Excuse me, folks, if you're hearing paper shuffling around, that's just me getting my stuff together here. All right, so that's that, right? Okay. All righty. I love doing this show. All right, so our 4 mortgage hacks, mortgage and real estate hacks for today is hack number 1. Use delayed financing to pull cash out without having to wait 6 months. This is a real big hack right here. So you cash buyers out there that you buy properties real quick for cash, and you're looking to get some of that cash back, and you don't want to wait 6 months. They call it delayed purchase, or delayed financing here. You buy the property in cash, then you can refinance it immediately to recoup funds and reinvest faster. It's really a flipper's secret weapon, especially a cash buyer, because we'll give you up to 75% of what you paid for it. So you can, and then we'll also give you 100% of your rehab costs. So the delayed financing, delayed purchase is a secret weapon for investors. If you don't know, this is the one right here for you. So if you got some properties that you did bought cash, usually, at least, I think it's like a year that you can own the property before this goes away. But this is the one right here. Out of the hacks for you investors, especially the ones that's, in these inner cities buying up properties for cash, but they get stuck. They don't have any more, capital. You can come to us. We'll do it, give you 75% of what you paid for it, plus 100% of the rehab dollars to rehab it, so you can go ahead and either put it in your portfolio or sell it to, add more capital to your overall business. So that's a good one right there. Hack number 2, negotiate seller concessions to cover your rate buy down. We talked about this a couple times. So, but in today's high rate market, ask the seller to help pay your points. This lowers your monthly payment and boosts your affordability. Excuse me. Hack number 3, use a renovation loan to finance your upgrades up front. The FHA 203K or Fannie Mae home style loans roll repairs into your mortgage. You get one loan, one closing, and a brand new kitchen. So yeah, if you're just a person who's looking to, grab a 2-family, 3-family, and this is, you don't really have the, the capital to be in the private money market, so to speak, then this is a good way for you to go. And then you can work yourself up into the private money market where, you can 10% down, of the purchase price, 100% of the rehab. That way, instead of having to roll the rehab dollars into your actual loan, you can, get your actual rehab dollars back, by the time you get done with the actual rehab. All right, so the last hack number 4, leverage your DSCR loans to invest without verifying personal income. The debt service cover ratio loans use property income, not your W-2, perfect for investors scaling up without tax return drama. I mean, I do these all day, every day. Doing a couple of them right now. DSCR loans for investor is heaven sent. They've only been around probably now for about 2-3 years. Prior to that, you would have to try to go to your local bank and, refinance your investment properties, and most local banks weren't dealing with you. That ain't what they do. So the private money market came up with these loans, and they're based off of the property's income. They don't look at your W-2s. They don't look at any income from you. They look at the income from the actual property. Does it cover the debt? The income that's coming in, does it cover the debt? And you usually got to be like in 1.0, 1.2, ratio percentage wise of the debt. So DSCR loans are great loans for investors. So if you're an investor out there and you want to pull cash out of your investment properties, holla at me, and we will definitely be looking at a DSCR loan. And the thing about it, DSCR loan are like a bank loan. Low interest rate, 30-year mortgage, amortized out over 30 years. So it is a great product, folks. Right? All right, so we're going to keep it moving. Let's see here. All right. Coastal Capital Small Business Loans. We're going to let this roll. They got a lot of good stuff here. All right, so let's do this. We'll do that. Let's go here. All right, so I'm gonna bring up my people. I love them. The one who does my deep dives for me. I'm gonna come on down, and I'm gonna let them come on up.
One of the biggest headaches for so many small business owners.
Whoa, I know where you're going with this. Accessing capital.
Exactly. Needing cash to grow, cover unexpected costs, maybe just keep things running smoothly.
And then you hit that wall with traditional banks.
Right. Feeling like the door's just slamming shut.
Yeah.
Long waits, piles of paperwork, maybe your business or, your credit profile doesn't quite fit their very specific box.
Yeah, that challenge with accessing timely, flexible capital is incredibly common. It really is a bottleneck that so many businesses face when they're trying to expand or even just, maintain stability.
Absolutely. And that's why documents about alternative funding options are always so interesting to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into some source material about the small business loan offerings from a company called Coastal Capital Group.
Right. And this document, it lays out their perspective entirely what they claim to offer, who they seem to be looking to serve, and basically how they pitch themselves as being different in the world of business financing.
Okay, so our goal here is to really unpack this specific source.
Mm.
What does Coastal Capital say they do?
Yeah, what are the specifics?
What are the details of their programs as described in this document?
Mm-hmm.
And how do they claim they stand out? We're really sticking just to what's presented here.
Exactly. Think of us as your guides just through this particular snapshot of their offerings based on this material. Let's dig in.
All right, so right away, this document hits you with their core message. It seems positioned directly against that traditional bank hurdle we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They lead with just 3 words: simple, fast, flexible.
Yeah, that framing immediately tells you they're aiming for a different experience than the often slow, maybe rigid process people sometimes associate with banks.
Definitely.
And they follow it with a claim that really jumps out: no restrictions for industry or credit profile.
Wow. Okay. That suggests they're targeting a really wide net of businesses then.
A very broad brush, it seems. And the numbers they list kind of reinforce that breadth,
Yeah. How so?
According to this document, they offer funding amounts starting as low as $5,000,
Okay. That's pretty accessible.
going all the way up to a really substantial $1,000,000.
$1 million. Okay. Quite a range.
And the flexibility seems to extend to the terms as well. They mention short-term options from just 3 months, stretching all the way out to 60 months, 5 years,
Okay. And payments.
plus choices for repayment frequency. Monthly, weekly, or even daily payments are listed as options.
Daily payments. Interesting. And speed, that seems like a major selling point here.
Definitely. State funding can happen in as little as 24 hours.
Right. If you've got an urgent need, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a pretty compelling promise coming from this document.
It really speaks to that fast part of their initial, 3-word promise.
Yeah.
Now, while they make those sort of broad claims up front, the source then gets a bit more specific. It details 3 distinct program options, explaining they're tailored to different business needs and profiles.
All right. So they recognize businesses aren't all the same. That makes sense. First up.
First is the Premier program. This one's described as being for businesses with, quote, stronger credit.
Okay. So the top tier, presumably, what does that entail according to the source?
Right. For that tier, the document lists requirements you might kind of expect for businesses in solid standing. Good credit, obviously, being in business for at least 2 years, good financials, and operating in what they call lower risk industries.
Okay. And revenue.
There's also a minimum revenue requirement mentioned, $20,000 or more per month.
Got it. So if you meet that profile, what does the Premier program offer?
This tier offers funding from $25,000 up to $500,000, so a significant chunk.
$500,000. Okay.
And the source specifies this tier includes both term loans and, interestingly, revolving lines of credit.
So flexibility there too. What about the terms and speed?
Terms here are listed as 12 to 60 months with those payment options weekly, biweekly, or monthly. And the speed claim remains pretty consistent, with funding typically listed as 1 to 2 days for this program.
Still quite fast. Okay, so stepping down a bit, what about businesses with what the source calls moderate credit?
Yeah, they describe it as BC tier credit levels, which, generally means scores below prime, but not necessarily severely distressed.
Right.
For them, they have the Coastal Fast Fund. And the document actually calls this our most popular program.
Okay, the popular one. Are the requirements easier to meet?
They seem a bit more accessible based on this document. Only 6 months minimum in business is required.
6 months. Okay.
Small tax lieners are explicitly mentioned as being okay. And the minimum monthly revenue drops to $10,000.
$10,000 a month. Okay. Anything else specific for this one?
Yes, and this detail really stands out for this program. And the next one too, actually. It says, must have business bank account, no personal or third-party fintech accounts.
Interesting. So they need to see a dedicated business banking history, not just funds flowing through a personal account or maybe one of those newer online-only fintech platforms.
Exactly. It seems to emphasize the importance they place on assessing a business's established financial flow through traditional banking.
Got it. And the funding specifics for this fast fund?
This Coastal Fast Fund covers a really broad range of funding amounts, from that low $5,000 mark all the way up to the full $1 million.
Wow. Okay. So the full range is available here potentially.
Potentially, yes. With terms up to 36 months, payments can be monthly, weekly, or daily. And they're described as fixed payments, quote, according to risk levels.
Okay. So the frequency or maybe amount is tied to risk assessment and the speed.
The speed claim holds firm here, too, with funding typically within 24 hours, as stated in the document.
24 hours.
Okay.
Okay. And then there's a third option.
Yes. Finally, for businesses facing more significant credit hurdles, they label it as having challenged credit or even severe credit issues. There's a Lifesaver program.
Lifesaver program. Okay. The name says a lot. What are the requirements here?
The requirements are further relaxed for this tier, according to the document, just 3 months minimum time in business.
Only 3 months. Okay.
Higher tax liens are mentioned as okay. And interestingly, high-risk industries are also explicitly accepted here.
So more flexibility on industry tag too. Minimum revenue.
Drops again to $8,000 minimum monthly revenue.
8,000. And that banking requirement.
It appears, again, same wording, must have business bank account, no personal or third-party fintech accounts.
Okay, so that's consistent for the non-premier tiers. What kind of funding does the Lifesaver program offer?
This program offers funding from $3,000 up to $250,000.
Right, a lower cap, but still potentially significant.
And the document really highlights that for this program, the decision heavily emphasizes, quote, the business cash flow and off credit.
So really leaning on current performance over past credit issues for this tier.
Seems that way. And funding, again, is stated as being in as little as 24 hours.
Okay, so they've structured these 3 tiers: Premier, Fast Fund, Lifesaver, seemingly to cover a wide spectrum of businesses based on time in business, revenue, and credit.
All detailed within this document, yes.
So once you sort of figure out which program might fit, how does the source say you actually get the money? What's the process like?
Well, the document presents the application process as intentionally easy. It outlines just 3 main steps.
Okay, step 1.
Apply online 24/7 through our secured servers for instant approvals. They even claim it's a simple 5-minute application.
5 minutes for an instant approval. That sounds incredibly fast, at least as presented here.
It does. Step 2, you apparently receive contracts by email. You then simply sign and return electronically.
Okay, e-sign, pretty standard now.
Yeah.
And step 3,
Step 3, funds are wired directly into your business Bark account.
direct wire. So yeah, the process described in the source definitely seems built for speed and minimal friction, really trying to deliver on that fast promise.
It appears designed to move very quickly from application to funding, which, aligns perfectly with their initial positioning against slower traditional methods.
Makes sense.
Now, the document then really spends quite a bit of time on what they call the coastal capital difference. They even state they've served over 10,000 businesses.
Okay, so they're trying to establish credibility
Yeah.
and highlight their unique selling points.
Hmm.
What are they claiming makes them different?
Well, they claim to take out the guesswork, saying they handle all levels of business credit and provide the best terms for your needs and situation.
Mm-hmm.
And they repeat that really bold claim here. No industry restrictions, no credit score restrictions, right in this section about their advantages.
That no credit score restrictions part is particularly attention grabbing when you think about how banks typically operate.
It really is. The document then says one simple application gives you instant access to quick funding through what they call multiple funding platforms.
Ah, so maybe they're not just funding directly, but accessing different pools of capital.
Now, it suggests that, suggesting they use various avenues to secure the funding depending on the application.
And they claim their system.
Their system, they say, analyze application data to consistently deliver the best terms available.
Okay, now here's a number that just jumps off the page in this source material.
Let me guess the approval rate.
Bingo. Highest approval rates, 98% approvals, nobody delivers more.
98%. A 98% approval rate, as claimed by the source, is, it's exceptionally high compared to almost any traditional lending norm.
Right. It suggests a fundamentally different approach to risk assessment.
Exactly. Which the source seems to attribute largely to their focus on cash flow and recent history, which we'll probably get to in more detail. But yeah, it's a remarkable figure they put forward.
Definitely stands out. So what do they list as the reasons why they can make these claims? Their best choices, as they put it.
Yeah, they list several points. They include, again, no credit score restrictions, no industry restrictions,
Repetition there.
no collateral required, which is a big one,
Unsecured.
no broker fees, and a no cost, no obligation application.
Okay, so low friction to apply.
They also mention having certificated business consultants, and they reiterate that simple 5-minute application again.
Got it. And they make that direct comparison again.
Yep, stating they are faster and easier than banks, with programs specifically designed for all credit levels.
Okay. And they make a distinction about the type of funding, right?
Crucially, yes. They distinguish their offerings from merchant cash advances, or MCAs. They state these are true business loans with fixed interest and fixed payments, not a merchant cash advance.
That distinction seems really important to them. Why is that?
Well, MCAs often have variable payments tied to sales and can sometimes carry very high implied interest rates or factor rates. By calling theirs true business loans with fixed interest, they're positioning it as more predictable and potentially lower cost.
Right. And that's something they revisit specifically regarding costs later, you said.
Exactly. They come back to that comparison.
Okay. What other advantages are listed in this section?
They also list no upfront costs or prepayment penalties,
Always good business.
and the flexibility that the funds can be used for any business purpose, no restrictions on use.
Okay. So their stated mission.
Is simple, according to the document, to help businesses get the working capital they need.
And how do they claim they do that differently?
They elaborate by claiming to provide credit at reasonable rates with much easier credit requirements based primarily on cash flow, not just credit.
Okay, that not just credit part again. And this is where they get into the detail about that no credit score restrictions claim, right? The low score possibility.
Exactly. They specifically state a business owner's credit score can be as low as 500 on the major bureaus, and they could still potentially qualify.
500. That's quite low for traditional business lending. How do they explain that's possible?
Well, according to their document, they explain why. Their low rate program apparently uses a scoring system that concentrates specifically on just the last 2 years of credit history.
Just the recent history.
Right. And this approach, they claim, means you aren't penalized for older negative stuff. They even mention things like issues from the 2008 financial crisis, or maybe an old bankruptcy or mortgage modifications.
Stuff that might still linger on a credit report for years.
Exactly. Stuff major bureaus might factor in for up to 7 or 10 years. Coastal Capital, according to this source, says their system focuses down. The key factor for them, they state, is your current ability to repay.
The focus on recent performance and current cash flow rather than potentially, decades old credit issues seems like a significant point they're highlighting as a key difference.
It really is.
It sounds like they're positioning themselves to help businesses that maybe had some past dings, but are actually doing okay now.
Precisely. As presented in this document, it seems designed to address that very common problem where past financial difficulties, even if they were resolved long ago, still act as a barrier for a business owner trying to get financing through more traditional channels.
Right. Okay. And speaking of differences, you mentioned the source includes a direct comparison on cost, specifically against merchant cash advances, MCAs.
Yes, they do. They claim their loans are lower cost than common alternatives and get very specific, stating they are as low as 17 of the cost of merchant cash advances.
1/7. That's a huge difference they're claiming.
But, they add, with almost the same easy credit requirements. So they're claiming significantly lower cost for similar accessibility.
Do they give an example?
They do provide a specific example in the document. A $10,000 loan in what they call their best tier program would have a total payback of $10,700 over 6 months.
Okay, so $700 in cost over 6 months on 10K.
And they contrast that directly with what they state is the average MCA for the same amount in term, which they list as having a payback of $13,800.
Whoa, so $700 versus $3,800 in cost in that
Yeah.
specific example.
That's
it-
the gap as they present it.
It is. And they even claim that for their lowest tier approval, clients can save up to half the cost of a merchant advance with the same easy credit requirements. Half the cost even at the lowest tier.
Okay. So this cost comparison really reinforces the earlier point, trying to clearly distinguish that these are not MCAs, which typically are higher cost and based on, credit card sales volume usually.
Right.
Their loans based on overall cash flow are presented here as being significantly less expensive according to this comparison.
Okay. So when it comes down to figuring out how much funding a business might actually qualify for, what does the document say are the most important factors?
It identifies two key factors quite clearly.
Which are
They are listed as average deposits and average balances.
average bank deposits and average daily or monthly balances.
Right. So while your credit profile affects which program or maybe which platform you qualify for.
Like Premier versus Fast Fund versus Lifesaver.
Exactly. Steering you towards the one that looks at your specific profile most favorably, whether that's using a standard score or maybe their hybrid model that weighs recent performance more heavily.
Mm.
The actual amount of funding you might get seems primarily linked to your business's cash flow, as evidenced by those average deposits and balances in your business bank account.
Got it. Cash flow is king for the amount. Credit directs the program. Makes sense based on everything else they've said.
Seems to be the logic presented, yes.
Now, beyond these sort of core small business loan programs we've discussed, does the source mention anything else? Any specialties?
It does mention briefly that Coastal Capital has specialty loan programs for all industries.
Okay, any examples?
Yeah, they list quite a few diverse examples like auto dealers, home-based businesses, trucking companies, logging,
Wow, specific.
cell phone retailers, accountants' offices, contractors, internet marketers, tax preparation offices, even seasonal businesses and travel agencies. And then they just say, many more.
So very wide range. And they emphasize again.
They really drive home that point again.
Yeah.
It's all about the revenue stream of your business, regardless of the specific industry label.
Okay. Anything else mentioned? Other services.
Just briefly, the document provides a list of other financing services they seem to offer, showing a potentially broader scope beyond just these term loans.
Like what?
It includes things like accounts receivable financing, borrowing against your outstanding invoices,
Factoring, basically.
could be asset-based lending, using assets like equipment as collateral, equipment leasing, debt restructuring. And interestingly, they also list merchant cash advance and problem credit programs themselves.
So even though they contrast their main loans against MCAs, they might offer MCAs too in some situations.
It appears that way from this list, yeah. It suggests they have a whole suite of potential solutions, maybe depending on what fits a specific business's needs best, even if the main focus of this document is on the small business loans we've been unpacking.
Okay, interesting. So let's try and bring this all together then, based purely on what this document tells us about Coastal Capital's small business loans.
Right.
What's the summary?
Well, as presented in the source, they're really pitching speed, flexibility, and simplicity. That seems to be the core message. They detail those three distinct programs: Premier, Coastal Fast Fund, and Lifesaver, which seem designed to serve businesses across a pretty wide range of credit and revenue profiles.
Each with its own specific minimum requirements for time in business and monthly revenue, plus that business bank account rule for two of them.
Exactly. The application process is described as fast, online, simple, aiming for that quick funding turnaround, sometimes 24 hours.
And the key claims that really define their stated difference seem to be that broad eligibility.
No industry restrictions, no credit score restrictions.
Those high reported approval rates, that 98% number,
Yep.
a strong focus on cash flow and recent credit history, allowing for scores as low as 500 rather than just traditional long view credit scores.
Mhm.
And that direct comparison claiming, pretty significant cost savings versus merchant cash advances.
Yeah, the document really emphasizes that these are structured as, quote, true business loans with fixed payments based on cash flow. They're positioning them as a potentially more stable and definitely lower cost alternative to MCAs.
Especially, it seems, for businesses that might have some past credit challenges, but are currently generating decent revenue.
That appears to be a key target audience described in this material.
Okay. So what does taking this deep dive into this particular document mean for you, the listener?
Well, I think if you're a small business owner out there navigating the sometimes tricky world of financing,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you found traditional paths difficult, maybe you've hit those roadblocks we talked about,
Right.
then understanding the specific criteria, the different programs, and the claimed advantages detailed in this particular source about Coastal Capital could be really helpful.
Yeah, it helps you evaluate if their stated approach aligns with your business's current situation and your needs. It gives you a very specific set of claims and details from this one provider to consider.
Exactly. It's information you can use in your assessment.
And it leaves us with maybe something to think about, right?
Mhm.
A final thought.
Yeah, definitely. Given how this document highlights Coastal Capital's emphasis on a business's current cash flow and recent financial history, really prioritizing that over older credit problems,
Mhm.
and their stated mission to provide working capital based on those factors. What does this specific model, as described here, suggest about how alternative lenders like this might be working to fill gaps in the market?
Gaps left by maybe more traditional institutions.
Potentially, yeah, especially perhaps for those businesses that are recovering from past financial difficulties but might still face barriers getting the capital they need to operate and grow today. It's an interesting dynamic in the lending landscape.
All right, folks. Appreciate that, my deep dive crew. The deep dive today was on Coastal Capital Group. Let's talk about Coastal Capital Group. This private lending firm has carved out a niche, folks, in private money and bridge financing, focusing on fix and flips, new construction, and investment properties. They operate nationwide, but have a strong presence in the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic markets. What sets them apart? Fast closing, sometimes in under 5 days, and flexible underwriting that doesn't push or punish investors for being non-traditional. They cater to experienced and novice real estate investors alike. with LTVs up to 85% on purchase and 100% on rehab costs. Coastal is helping investors build portfolios without the bank's red tape. But with rising rates and increasing competition from fintech lenders, how they adapt over the next 18 months will define their long-term value. We'll be watching for sure. Coastal Capital Group, I haven't done any business with them, but I just wanted to bring them up today just to kind of, have you guys have another source that you could potentially do business with. I'm not selfish. I got enough business. I got tons as my deep dive crew was doing the deep dive. I had 3-4 submissions, so I got plenty of business. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do business with me, but it might not be a bad idea because, dealing with me, you're going to get full transparency. So, but anyway, that's deep. That's the deep dive today was on Coastal Capital Group. And that's it for today's Mortgage Mayhem, where mortgage and money meets madness. From McKinsey reports to missing pennies, from Diddy's downfall to Coastal Capital's come up. This episode had it all. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, and follow us across platforms. We go live every Monday and Tuesday, breaking down the headlines that fit your wallet and your world. Until next time, stay informed, stay invested, and stay out of the mayhem. All right, folks, have a good evening. See you back here next Monday. Can't wait.